Welcome to That Don't Sound Right. That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you couldn't prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
And I'm Cecil. And we hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," leave us a comment. You're one of us. Enjoy the show. Welcome to That Don't Sound Right. We have reached episode number 20. So thank you for listening. Thank you for getting us to this episode. I know we're up against the Olympics tonight, but we have a great episode for you. We dip into the listener mailbag and answer emails and voicemails from listeners, from you. And so it's going to be a great show. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to That Don't Sound Right. I'm Cecil.
Hey, I'm Peter.
We've got a lot going on this week.
Yes, one of the things that's very interesting about this particular podcast is that we're outside on the recording porch at Cecil's here. There's a case of COVID at my house, so out of an abundance of caution, we're meeting outside, and it's 30 degrees. You might hear some wind or a heater blasting at us. Check us out on Instagram. There's an action photo. You can see what's going on, how this is going down.
So that's tdsrpodcast on Instagram. We got a couple things this week. We have reached 738 downloads.
Oh.
So thank you for that. Thank you for everyone. And we also had a goal of 50 listeners per episode by the end of February. We have already gone past that, and it's not even the end of January.
Well, let's shoot for another one.
So we're going to give a new goal of 100 listeners per episode. That means that each one of you listening just has to find one friend, bring them to the podcast.
The bar's pretty
just
steady.
One friend.
Hey, speaking of one friend, we have a listener in Canada.
Yes.
Want to shout out to listener number one of Canada. We appreciate you. Just tell one, then we'll have two in Canada.
That's
we'll
right.
Double our Canadian listenership.
Overnight. Yeah, you are our entire Canadian program, whoever you are.
Yeah,
so it is
really
up to you.
Made our day
to spread the word in Canada. The TDSR ecosystem now is we've got the podcast. We have the Instagram, TDSR podcast on Instagram, the email, and we've actually got some listener mail this week.
Oh,
we've
my
got
gracious.
3 that we'll go over. And so that's tdsrpodcast@gmail.com, and we also have the TDSR store. All right, so we'll go to the mail first. So we'll start off with one of our listeners, Brent, called in and left a message on the TDSR voicemail. So he was driving down the road.
We got a voicemail.
We got a voicemail. It's a very exclusive voicemail, but we've got a voicemail. So he was driving down the road, saw an upholstered pillow, a throw pillow. Then he saw a second throw pillow.
This is clearly out of our Roadside Find
series.
Okay.
And so he began to look for the couch.
No.
Did not see the couch. But in using the guidelines from the show, I evaluated that the throw pillows were not worth stopping and picking up.
Was this a risk versus reward type of calculation?
Risk versus reward calculation. We actually had a pickup ourselves this week. So I saw a pair of pliers.
It was a tag team kind of operation.
Yeah, I sent out a signal to those Roadside Find guys, and you actually retrieved the pliers.
Yeah, what is our signal? Is it like is it a pair of pliers kind of flashed up against the silhouette of a cloud or something?
Yeah, you see a pair of pliers in the sky.
Oh man, yeah. So I ran to it. Challenge accepted. Got a nice set of pliers. Actually, one of the nicer set of pliers that I found.
Nice.
Yeah, I should have brought them.
Yeah, pliers.
In fact, I'll give them to you.
No. You finished the pic. So that picture's also on the Instagram.
Oh
site.
yeah, another action shot.
Yeah. We had a message from Scott, who first listener.
Listener number one, Scott.
Listener.
Shout out to you.
So he was commenting on our roller coaster episode.
Okay.
Do you have that?
Yeah, I do. Let's bring that up.
So he had an idea of how the White Lightning roller coaster worked based on his brother's input.
So basically, there's a counterweight that is used to launch. So the counterweight has to be lifted into the air, and then it's dropped, and it's connected to the train, and that's what launches the roller coaster. And evidently, the cycle time of that particular ride is dependent on how fast they can lift that big counterweight, which I imagine it's a combination of steel and concrete.
Yep.
How fast they can lift that back up into the air. So they have it timed just perfectly. So you're not waiting too long.
Right.
You're getting the people in and out. And by the time people get in and out, that counterweight's ready to sling you up into the sky.
Yes. Now, just a caveat, this was a pre-engineering degree that this theory came up with, and we have not actually confirmed that theory. But thanks for submitting that answer on White Lightning. And then we also had a answer to come through on the snowmaking.
Right. So if you'll remember, we were wondering how in the world, or was it possible to make snow when it was above freezing? And one theory was the chemicals in the water to raise the freezing limit, which we kind of said,
that don't sound right.
and
Peter.
so we came back and thought, well, it's probably something in the machine. And sure enough, a chemistry friend of ours let us know that it's likely that it's the Bernoulli effect, that when fluid passes through a high pressure into a low pressure, it actually drops the temperature. Now, by how much? Probably not a whole lot, but enough to make it snow or at least freeze when the temperature is just slightly above freezing. And that was my experience. Yeah. It wasn't like it was 40 degrees when it was snowing, but it was it wasn't 32, maybe 33, 34. And so this would make sense. And
or 27 like today.
Yeah, well, 30, you don't even need the Bernoulli effect when it's 27 degrees. In fact, we should try to make some snow right now, shouldn't we?
How cold does it have to be to record a podcast?
Well, let's see. I haven't checked the specs on my microphone, but I have a feeling they have a temperature limit, and we might be real close to it.
Right. Temperature limit.
So if I buzz in and out, that's what's going on.
All right, so man, 3 pieces of listener mail this week. That's awesome.
Wow, we had a whole episode just on listener mail, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. So finish out this episode with something we actually tested the mics with a few weeks ago, but I think it should be revisited. It has not been recorded yet.
What's that?
That is the crumbling of a coffee kingdom at work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just as a disclaimer, this is not based on my current place of employment because we have a coffee service there.
Right.
So this is an amalgam of me working for the last 40 years, hearing stories of other people's workplaces. So this is more of an amalgam. Yeah. So here's what happened.
How did you get started drinking coffee, though? I started drinking coffee just to stay warm at work. That's how I started drinking it. How did you start drinking it? I
started drinking coffee. No, I think I started at work in my 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I was in my late 20s when I started drinking it. And
coffee really wasn't a thing in the 80s.
Oh, that's a fact.
Yeah. So coffee was something you got free at most places.
Well, when I started drinking coffee, it still wasn't a thing, and I still wonder why I started drinking it because it's not anything like it is right now.
Yeah. So it was But this is what I've heard. This is it's just a little background.
Okay.
And then I'll give you the that don't sound right take. What happens most of the time is you're at work and you bring your coffee in, and then eventually everybody's bringing their coffee in, and someone says, "Hey, we should buy a coffee maker."
Oh, because there's several coffee machines on everyone's desk scattered around the office.
Right. And everybody agrees. They're like, "This is a great idea. We'll buy a coffee maker together.
A big one.
A big one. We'll all chip in every month, and we'll all clean up.
We'll all make the coffee.
And it's beautiful.
That don't sound right.
It's beautiful.
I can see how this is crumbling already.
Yeah. And so then, about a month in, someone stops contributing, or the worst offense is, of course, leaving about a third of a cup in the pot, and you don't make you leave just enough in to justify not making the next pot.
And everyone leaves it because they don't want to drink that nasty stuff.
Right. You don't want to drink it, but you don't want to make the next pot.
But look, there's clearly coffee still there, so someone will drink it. I'm not going to make a new cup.
Right. I'm not making a new cup.
That perfectly good cup, that perfectly good third cup of coffee.
Right.
Which by now it's not perfectly good.
Right.
It's been boiled off to sludge.
Yes. And then signs start going up that say, "Your mother doesn't work here. Please clean up after yourself."
If it's less than a third of a cup, please make a new pot.
Yeah. So I actually had someone say that they did this and it succeeded for years.
No.
That they had a coffee kingdom at work. Now again, not a coffee service. This is a grassroots level coffee kingdom, and it worked. Everybody contributed. Everybody cleaned up. Here's my question.
Yeah.
Is that possible in a fallen world? How long can that actually happen? Given what we know about people and ourselves.
Oh man, I give it a year.
A year?
I give it a year.
Oh man, you gave
if
11 months more than I was going to give you.
I mean, if you got people who really like, that's the utopia. If you got all the people who really, really like coffee. Right. And I would even venture to say coffee snobs.
Right.
They understand that you don't let it go past a third of a cup. They understand you keep it made. You keep it made. Right. You buy the good stuff. That was the beef I had one time when I was in a coffee utopia. Yeah. Is that people started bringing some pretty nasty,
cheap coffee,
chicory, and some tree bark and stuff.
Right. That's
when it fell apart for me. I'm like, I bring good stuff, and someone brings in this stuff. So that's not going to ever run to work.
Yeah, that don't sound right when that happens.
That's right. Oh, we just had a big blow of snow into the recording porch here.
Yeah. This is nice because we actually can be remote now with this Mailto light that we're using.
Oh, that's right. We have remote technology. But back to the coffee. You only give it a month?
I would say we'd start seeing cracks after a month.
Okay.
Now, I remember at my dad's place of employment, they actually had everybody's name was on a board, and there was a big cardboard arrow. And if you hadn't paid up, the cardboard arrow said, "Pay up," and then there was an expletive. And they would point the arrow at your name to shame you into paying up if you had not done it.
That was, a similar experience. We had a Friday morning treat club where someone would bring a treat for Friday.
Oh, nice.
And, some people would go out and bring tenderloin biscuits.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
It all fell apart when some people started bringing in powdered donuts. That's when the whole operation
just one
apart.
Sleeve. Nutri-Grain bars.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not doing this
anymore.
We're
not doing that. Well, I think that probably wraps up this week's episode.
That sounds like a good stopping point.
That almost sounds right.
We can defrost the microphones.
That's right. So go on the Instagram account and see how we were the show must go on picture for this week. But again, thank y'all for listening, and we will see you next week.
It's wintertime. Stay warm, stay safe. This is Peter. Bye.
Bye.